Unlock the economic success story of a nation. In this video, we delve into the intriguing question: how did Israel become so rich? From its early years to present-day innovation hubs, we explore the factors fueling Israel's remarkable economic growth. Join us as we uncover the entrepreneurial spirit, technological prowess, and global collaborations that have propelled Israel into an economic powerhouse. Whether you're an investor, history enthusiast, or curious about economic development, stay tuned to discover the key elements contributing to Israel's impressive journey to prosperity. Today, we will talk about how did Israel become so rich? So before we get started, make sure to hit that like button, also subscribe to my channel. The large influx of well-trained and Western-educated European and North American immigrants contributed greatly to a rapid rise in Israel's gross national product, GNP, after 1948. Although most of them had to change occupations, a nucleus of highly skilled labor, in combination with the country's rapid founding of universities and research institutes, facilitated economic expansion. The country obtained large amounts of capital, which included gifts from Jews around the world, reparations from the Federal Republic of Germany for Nazi crimes, grants and aid from the U.S. government, and capital brought in by immigrants. Israel has supplemented these forms of revenue with loans, commercial credits, and foreign investment. The goals of Israel's economic policy are continued growth and the further integration of the country's economy into world markets. Israel has made progress toward these goals under difficult conditions, such as a rapid population increase, a boycott by most Arab countries, heavy expenditure on defense, a scarcity of natural resources, high rates of inflation, and a small domestic market that limits the economic savings of mass production. Despite these obstacles, Israel has achieved a high standard of living for most of its residents, the growth of substantial industrial export and tourism sectors, and world-class excellence in advanced technologies and science-based industry. However, this economic progress has not been uniform. Israeli Arabs are generally at the lower rungs of the economic ladder, and there are substantial economic divisions among Israeli Jews, mainly between the Sephardim and Ashkenazim. Large influxes of capital have passed through government channels and public organizations and enlarged that sector of the economy that engages in enterprises between the government and private concerns. Government policy dating from the late 1970s, however, has been directed toward privatization. The private, governmental, and, to a limited extent, cooperative sectors all coexist in an economy that supports both the broad objectives of state policy and individual enterprise. Tax rates in Israel are among the highest in the world, with income, value-added, customs and excise, land, and luxury taxes being the main sources of revenue. The government has gradually raised the proportion of indirect taxes since the late 1950s. Tax reforms in 1985 included a new corporate tax levied on previously untaxed business sectors while slightly reducing direct taxes on individuals. Taxation approaches 2/5 of the value of GNP and is about 1/4 of average household income. The General Federation of Labor in Israel, Histadrut, is the largest labor union and voluntary organization in the country. It once was also one of the largest employers in Israel and owner or joint owner of a wide range of industries, but by the mid-1990s, it had sold most of its holdings to private investors. Since 1960, Arab workers have been admitted to the organization with full membership rights. The Manufacturers Association of Israel and the Farmers Union represent a large number of the country's employers. Power. The power industry is nationalized, and electricity is generated principally from coal and oil-burning thermal stations. The government has encouraged intensive rural electrification and has provided electricity for agriculture and industry at favorable rates. The Israel Atomic Energy Commission was established in 1952 and has undertaken a comprehensive survey of the country's natural resources and trained scientific and technical personnel. A small atomic reactor for nuclear research was constructed with American assistance south of Tel Aviv. A second reactor, built in the Negev with French help, is used for military weapons research, agriculture, forestry, and fishing. Early Israeli society was strongly committed to expanding and intensifying agriculture. As a result, a rural Jewish agrarian sector emerged that included two unique forms of farming communities, the kibbutz, and the mashal. Although the rural sector makes up less than 1/10 of the total Jewish population, such a large rural populace represents something almost unknown in the diaspora. The amount of irrigated land has increased dramatically, and along with extensive farm mechanization, has been a major factor in raising the value of Israel's agricultural production. These improvements have contributed to a great expansion in cultivating citrus and such industrial crops as peanuts, groundnuts, sugar beets, and cotton, as well as vegetables and flowers. Dairying has also increased considerably in importance. Israel produces the major portion of its food supply and must import the remainder. The main problem facing agriculture is the scarcity of water. Water is diverted through pipelines from the Jordan and Yarkon rivers and from Lake Tiberias to arid areas in the south. Because almost all the country's current water resources have been fully exploited, further agricultural development involves increasing yields from land already irrigated, obtaining more water by cloud seeding, reducing the amount of evaporation, desalinizing seawater, and expanding desert farming in the Negev by drawing on brackish water found underground. Israel has perfected drip irrigation methods that conserve water and optimize fertilizer use. Only a limited quantity of fish is available off Israel's Mediterranean and Red Sea coasts, and Israeli trawlers sail to the rich fishing grounds in the Indian Ocean and engage in deep-sea fishing in the Atlantic Ocean. Inland, fish spawn production meets much of the domestic demand. Industry of Israel. For more than 40 years, local demand fueled Israeli industrial expansion as the country's population grew rapidly and the standard of living rose. More recently, world demand for Israeli advanced technologies, software, electronics, and other sophisticated equipment has stimulated industrial growth. Israel's high status in new technologies is the result of its emphasis on higher education and research and development. The government also assists industrial growth by providing low-rate loans from its development budget. The main limitations experienced by industry are the scarcity of domestic raw materials and sources of energy and the restricted size of the local market. Mining and quarrying. The country's mining industry supplies local demands for fertilizers, detergents, and drugs, and also produces some exports. A plant in Haifa produces potassium nitrate and phosphoric acid for both local consumption and export. Products of the oil refineries at Haifa include polyethylene and carbon black, which are used by the local tire and plastic industries. The electrochemical industry also produces food chemicals and a variety of other commodities. Oil pipelines run from the port of Eilat to the Mediterranean. Israel has some producing oil wells, but continues to import most of its petroleum. Manufacturing. Industrial growth has been especially rapid since 1990 in high technology, science-based industries such as electronics, advanced computer and communication systems, software, and weapons. And these have come to command the largest share of overall manufacturing output. Other principal products include chemicals, plastics, metals, food, and medical and industrial equipment. Israel's diamond cutting and polishing industry, centered in Tel Aviv, is the largest in the world and is a significant source of foreign exchange. The great majority of industries are privately owned, one exception being the government-run Israel Aircraft Industries, LED, a defense and civil aerospace manufacturer. Factories producing military supplies and equipment have expanded considerably since the 1967 war, a circumstance that stimulated the development of the electronics industry. Finance. Israel's central bank, the Bank of Israel, issues currency and acts as the government's sole fiscal and banking agent. Its major function is to regulate the money supply and short-term banking. The Israeli currency was devalued numerous times after 1948, and the new Israeli shekel, NIS, was introduced in September 1985 to replace the earlier Israeli shekel. The government and central bank introduced this measure as part of a successful economic stabilization policy that helped control a rate of inflation that had grown steadily between the 1950s and mid-1980s and had skyrocketed in the 1970s. Tourism. Tourism has increased significantly and has become an important source of foreign exchange, although its growth at times was affected by regional strife. Visitors are drawn to Israel's numerous religious, archaeological, and historic sites, such as the Western Wall and the Dome of the Rock, and biblical cities such as Nazareth and Bethlehem in the West Bank. as well as to its geographic diversity, excellent weather for leisure activities, and links to the Jewish and Palestinian Arab diasporas. There are numerous resorts in the highlands and desert and along the coast, with most tourists coming from Europe and a growing number from North America. If you like this video and would like to see more like it, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, and click to subscribe button.